What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Party Chat. I'm Matt, that's Ash, and that's Dan.
Come on down!
That was very
It's a game show.
I used to love that show. It was so funny. Did you see there was once an episode where they basically called someone to come on down, and apparently there was two people with the same name in the audience, so someone got up thinking it was him, but it wasn't him, because they obviously shined the camera down. And there's a video on YouTube of him getting up, getting all excited, then realising it wasn't him and just slowly sitting down, looking really sad. Anyway, this is not a tribute to any classic TV game shows, although that should be a good idea for a show.
Yeah, that could be good.
Don't be stealing our ideas, YouTube. This is a weekly show that the three of us do. We get together and talk video games. We have a conversation, pretty random. It's about a specific topic. It can be something that's been in the news recently, like it will be this week, or it can be lists of favourite games, or just something completely, whatever, basically.
Controversial, perhaps.
Controversial, maybe. Maybe about a certain woman's derriere that we will not be discussing today, because we have now been issued a gagging order. So if you do like video game conversations, video game news, or Let's Plays, you can find out everything we do on our website, thegameinitiative.com. I saw the shake of a head. In disgust. This week, we're going to be talking about the Video Game Hall of Fame, which I didn't realise was a thing until this week, but I think is a very...
Well, in all fairness, it wasn't a thing until last year.
Yes,
so.
it is a new thing. It did only start last year. I think it's a really good thing to have. We have it for music, sports, and different sports, movies. It's a really...
It exists for anything, really.
It does. And it should exist for our media form, because I think it's safe to say now that there was a period where people maybe thought video games were just going to be a small fad.
Yeah.
But I think they're here to stay in one form or another for a while. So let's very briefly talk about the games that were inducted last year. The first 6 games. And the idea of the Hall of Fame, as you'd imagine, is the games that are in there so far are pretty iconic. I don't think you can have any arguments about the games that have been inducted. So in there already, so far, is Doom, Pac-Man, Pong, Super Mario Brothers, Tetris, and World of Warcraft. So they're all...
Yeah.
I mean, I would maybe have an argument for World of Warcraft, but I respect what it did. It changed MMOs.
Yeah.
So I think you have to...
I would have expected maybe it would have been like the second wave kind of thing, as in like you put all the originals pretty much in first, and then you would start spreading out from there.
But it's the original of that type. It just came later because of internet infrastructure. I mean, even the difference between Pong and Super Mario Bros. Is quite a way in
Yeah, I know.
timeline. So anyway, with that in mind, very good games. We've got a look at this year's list of finalists. We've got 15 finalists, which will probably be, I would assume, whittled down to about 6 again. I don't know if there's because last year was the inaugural year, there's no obvious details of whether or not it's a pattern of whether or not it is 6 every year or it is...
Yeah. I would assume, based off how other Hall of Fame things do it, that it probably would be.
The same
they tend to stick to the same number every year.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just get random movements of like, oh, you can just let him in this year rather than waiting a year.
So let's go through the list quickly, and then we can decide which we think will be let's say, for the argument of his sake, the 6 that will make it in.
Yeah.
So we've got Elite, which is I'm not going to go through the description of all of them anyway. So we've got Elite, which game was first released in 1984. Then we have the original Final Fantasy back from 1987. GTA 3, more recent 2001 game. John Madden Football, it's the original John Madden, which was in 1990. We then have The Legend of Zelda from 86. Minecraft, the newest game on the list, 2009. Nürburgring from 1975. The Oregon Trail, the oldest one, 1971.
That's Trail, not Tail.
Oh, sorry, Oregon Trail. Pokemon Red and Green, or as you probably know it, Pokemon Red and Blue, from 1996. And Sid Meier's Civilization, the original one, not the Revolution 2 plus Super version on the Vita. That was in 1991. The Sims, released in 2000. Sonic the Hedgehog from 1991. Space Invaders from 1978. Street Fighter 2, 1991. And last but not least, the original Tomb Raider, 1996. So, a very good list there. All games...
It is a very good list.
Again, obviously, worthy finalists. I say worthy finalists, I mean, as much of a racing fan as I am, I haven't heard of Nürburgring before.
This is where we unfortunately point out some of our ignorance towards video games when we go, never heard of that.
See, I've heard of most of them. The only ones I hadn't heard of was the Oregon Trail and Nürburgring. I've heard of all the others. It's something that I personally would love to learn a lot more about the history of video games. And it's just, time of the day, etc., etc.
There's quite a lot out there now.
There is a lot to learn, yeah.
But with that in mind, what do we think, just very, very quickly, what do you think will be the 6 to go into the Hall of Fame this year? Who wants to go first? Ash?
I'll go first. A few that I think probably will, just definites really for me. I think Minecraft has got to. I think for what that is delivered over the last few years and the popularity that it is, it's huge. And I think it would be silly not to go in there. I also think that The Sims as well for what that's brought to the video games in terms of the sort of reality, living life and the
what it brought to everyone was that it taught everyone that you're a sadistic bastard, and will remove that ladder from the swimming pool.
I was going to say this,
or you will set the room on fire with no door.
What would you do first? Would you kill them by making them drown to death in the pool with no ladder, or would you make them burn to death in the explosion room of fireworks? I love that, we haven't talked about this previously off air, but Dan lists the exact 2 things that I did, and don't say you didn't do them.
I might have done.
No, you did. Everyone did. But The Sims was it was so, when you think about it, now, it's such a basic concept, which as a game I don't think I'd want to play it now.
It's actually
at the time.
No, but at the time
in part it's actually also depressing because you're sitting down playing a game and making someone live a life that you could be out living.
I don't say that. That is depressing.
I heard that someone described it as that the other day, and I was like, that is true.
I think as well, Sonic the Hedgehog.
You reckon?
Yeah, I mean, well, for me.
Well, let's actually. So this doesn't turn into half-hour video. Do you agree so far that Minecraft should be in the 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
I think it's too big to say no.
And I think The Sims also will go in, personally. I think.
The reason I say Sonic, again, is because for its time, it was just such a massive, massive game. And since then, the franchise, even now, the franchise is still going. For me, as a kid, it was just such a massive game, and I think it depends what era you were brought up in. Yeah. Space Invaders as well, for a game of its time, I think...
Space Invaders has to go in.
It has
1978.
If you put Pong in,
you
have, and Tetris and stuff like that, you have to put in Space Invaders.
Yeah.
Because it's another one of those games that was around at the time where, graphics weren't great, but it entertained people for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think...
And it led the way. You have to put the ones in that led the way at the end of the day.
And speaking of leading the way, I think as well, Final Fantasy. I think because from its early beginnings, I think from what that has given to other video games, not just the gameplay type. I know originally it was very sort of turn-based, wasn't it? I think if we go back historically.
Yeah.
Whereas... And also the sort of the combat style and just the general genre sort of type of the game really. I think that'd be my 6 if I was to pick out all of that. But there's no question that there are other games on that list that would be quite easily.
See, I think Legend of Zelda has to go in. If you've got Mario in there, you have to have Zelda with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think personally,
whether it makes it this year, it will go in. But whether it's this year's one. I
think Zelda has to be in there. I don't know what the rules are going to be as well, and whether or not you can be nominated more than once. Again, they haven't really said that yet.
I would assume so. Again, based off other Hall of Fame things that have taken people multiple nominations before they finally actually get
Zelda is, again, one of those things where even now it's still going as a kids' TV show, as a television series,
as games
other
eventually
merchandise.
make it to the Wii U. or not.
So it's still, even today, and we're talking 30 years on from its original release, and it's still big.
I was thinking about it here, like I said, The Sims. I don't think The Sims and Sid Meier's Civilization will both make it in.
I would,
and I think Civilization was, because it was 9 years before. In terms of, I mean, they're different games, but in terms of the whole simulation strategy kind of game, maybe that will go in ahead of The Sims. It's just The Sims is, and if you talk of like commercial success, and I know the Video Game Hall of Fame isn't about commercial success, but I mean, what does it say here? 200 million units sold across the franchise. It's just,
it's huge.
It's tough. It is tough because I think definite shoo-ins. First up, it's got to be Space Invaders. 100% has to go. I think Legend of Zelda and Final Fantasy have to go. Personally, in there.
Things that I can...
Minecraft, I could see Minecraft going in, so that's 4. So that leaves you with 2. I wouldn't be surprised to see GTA 3 went in there, because even though it's newer, the stuff it's done for games now, like every sandbox game is inspired by that game.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing though, like, because I've not heard of Elite, but just looking at the description, and it says like it helped
Elite.
It helped Grand Theft Auto 3. Like, if you just read the description there, it's like, well, if that's the case, then surely you need to put the thing in that helped the one that was revolutionary before you put the revolutionary one in.
I would agree.
It's because clearly something about that was revolutionary. But I've not heard of that. That's one that is my blind spot, and I don't have a clue of what it is.
I don't think Street Fighter's really big enough.
Street Fighter is big for I think it is for the fighting genre. I think the restriction is, it's not that it doesn't deserve to be there, but
whether it deserves to make it in the
whether it can beat 6 other titles, or it has to, it has to beat more than that. It has to beat 9 other titles to make it into the top 6 on this list. I don't know if it does or not. See, because I don't think Sonic gets in, because Sonic was big for what it did for the competition of Nintendo versus Sega, so it was important there. But in terms of an actual game, I don't think it, I mean, it's. Are we talking about it because it's what it did for video games as an industry, or what it did for video games in terms of like the game itself and how revolutionary that game was? Because Sonic didn't do anything that Mario didn't do.
Yeah.
But it just offered an arguably more colourful palette to it.
Yeah. It's a slightly different style platformer.
Yeah.
But when you look at all modern day platformers, which is the one that they're ripping off, for want of a better way of putting
Inspired by, I think.
No, some of them are directly ripping it off, but most are inspired more by Mario.
I'm surprised neither of you have mentioned the Pokemon.
Well, that's a shoo-in. It's already in there, basically. Of course it is. Okay. I was getting to that as my number 6. But yeah, it's difficult, isn't it?
It is difficult. They are
all these games are more than worthy being in there.
Yeah.
That's why they're finalists, obviously. It is only the second year. There is no doubt that possibly at some point in the future, all of these games will eventually. But the whole point about Hall of Fame is that it should be elitist. It should be the most important games, not just every good game. Because otherwise, that's not a Hall of Fame.
It'd just be the Hall of Good.
But that's what we get now in a lot of Hall of Fames, isn't it? Where almost anyone can get in.
The problem is, when you start them, you're almost obliged to keep going every year and filling your quota.
Yeah.
And at some point, your quota's not going to be good enough by standards compared to
because
what
all the
has
great
been
ones.
Before.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where you just have one a year that you put in.
One game.
One game every year, and that way you've always got.
That's too elitist, isn't it?
Huh?
That's too elitist.
But that's how you want it. Otherwise, it's not a Hall of Fame. I think for it to be a true Hall of Fame, you want it to be. It's a bit like when they give these lifetime achievements, the Oscars or the Brits. They don't give out 6 a year. It's one.
Yeah.
It's one a year, and then that's the focus. That is the the main.
So with that in mind, then before we close out this show, not counting the 6 games that are already in there, you can include the lists off as finalists if you want to. What 2 games. I know you're saying 1, but you can make up because you didn't get to put 1 in last year.
Yeah.
What 2 games out of every game should be in the Video Game Hall of Fame in that mind? Not just off that list, off your entire catalogue history of games. Putting you on the spot a little bit. If Dan wants to maybe go first.
I would agree that I think Space Invaders off this list. Off this list, Space Invaders
if you had to
should
put one,
be there.
Yeah.
Because, like I said before, it was one of the front runners, or it led the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've got to respect that.
Yeah. And is there anything
for
off,
a second?
Anything off the list that you think should go in? Like, categorically? I mean, it doesn't have to be a right or a wrong answer. Just, if you think of games that inspired games, are there any to you that come to mind?
I would say Sid Meier's Civilization has inspired a lot of other games. If you look at all of the other sort of like world building games that are out there, and they're not all about conquering everything. They are sometimes just about building you up. Like, you've got SimCity, you've got Cities Skylines and so on as ones to build, and you are just building. You're not trying to do anything for. But you do have other things that have been and gone, like Age of Empires and so on. But whether, again, my blind spot is slightly. I'm not sure whether Age of Empires originally came out around the same time or whether it followed. But you've got a lot of other civilization building games that have been since.
Yeah,
is basically what I'm saying. And I think based off those, that's another one that led the way.
That's true. You thought of any?
I mean, I think I'm not a huge
6 years after.
So I'm not a huge fan of the game, and I don't really play it. But I think what Minecraft has done is probably built on other games, like you were saying. But I still think that Minecraft is a worthy game to be in there when you think of where it's come over the last 7 years since releasing. It's just huge. It's massive, and I think
somehow still going. That's the other one.
And still like one of the best-selling games every month.
Yeah.
I don't know who's buying it.
It's running out of devices, and yet still it's going.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. What it's how much you can really do, and how big some of these worlds are. We've had them. Where we have talked about some of these things that people have done, and how big the scope of some of these worlds are that people have built and created. It's truly amazing.
And it inspired. The good thing is it's approachable for kids. Like, I was speaking to a kid, not just a random one on the street. Like,
you child.
Hello, children. So no, I was in Ireland last week.
He was actually stood outside a park.
One of Sarah's cousins. He loves Minecraft, and he's built like player skins for Minecraft. Like, he's so into it, and he's built skins for them. And he's said that when he grows up, he wants to make video games. Like, he's got into this so much, the whole building, and that game has inspired him. So like, that's something that shows, like, a game that can do that to someone as well is also a game that shows.
I think that's the thing, is that this game, we live in a world where we see so many games that adults or parents are very conscious of their kids playing because of violence or sex or drugs or whatever, gore that there is. With Minecraft, it allows children, I think, to really be creative. Children's minds are, I've got a son who's nearly 10, and some of the stuff he talks about and thinks about is ridiculous. He's so creative, and they have all these sort of, big ideas about what they can, their fantasies are with, creating things and making things. And Minecraft delivers all that. It allows children to do it in a platform that is safe, that as a parent is very good for them educationally as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, as a kid, if you couldn't draw, you were basically considered to not be artistic.
Yeah.
Like, if you couldn't draw anything at all, you were just like, that's...
Yeah.
Minecraft does
you reminded me of hard times.
Yeah. Sorry, I was in that boat.
I once did an art exam, and we had to draw fruit or something. Or was it a shoe? Yeah, it was draw fruit.
And then it looked like a shoe.
The finished piece could have been either.
No, I'm getting confused. Which year I got in trouble. The shoe I just got told was rubbish. But I did fruit, and I was trying so hard, but it was so bad, the teacher thought I was taking the piss and gave me detention. She was like, "You haven't taken this exam seriously." I was like, "No, I did. I'm just really bad." Anyway, sorry.
That's hard. Yeah, but it just gives kids who don't have that traditional artistic capabilities to put it out there and show that they can actually do stuff.
So yeah, for me, Minecraft, and the other one would be Space Invaders.
I agree. I think Space Invaders has to go in there on a list. If I was picking 2 from a list, it would be, I think, Space Invaders and Zelda. If I had to. Or maybe Space Invaders and Final Fantasy. I don't know.
As you can see, it's quite
It's
a
hard.
difficult decision.
But I think Metal Gear Solid should be... Well, actually, the original Metal Gear, not even Solid. The original Metal Gear on the NES deserves its place. Because that inspired a lot.
I'm sure
it'll be there eventually.
In years to come, we will see it on the finalists
So
list.
yeah.
Next year we'll have this conversation again.
We'll bring it up again in May next month once the finalists have been announced.
May 5th is the inaugural ceremony.
Well, it's not inaugural anymore, is it? Because last year's was inaugural. The second inaugural?
Oh yeah.
Can you have that?
Yeah, I suppose.
Sound is so good
Yeah, nearly.
as well.
It's our inaugural.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have it as a news article on the Game of the Week show, so we can see whether or not we were even close.
Yeah.
It'll probably be like Tomb Raider, like ones that we didn't, and like the Oregon Trail, like 2 that we didn't even mention.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know in the comments down below which games you think should be in the Video Game Hall of Fame, either off this list or otherwise. We'll definitely be interested to hear your thoughts. But for now, Ash, Dan,
Cheers, guys.
thank you as always.
Thank you all.
And everyone out there, thank you very much for watching. We will see you all next time.